Hello fellow mutants, welcome back to another video. We're joined by my tired cat Nemo. He has his own YouTube channel, which is Nemo the Cat, so please consider giving him a subscribe. And in this video, we're going to talk about something that I never thought I was going to be able to talk about since Disney bought Lucasfilms. And that is the rumors, keep in mind rumors, that there is going to be a Force Unleashed 3. And I'm on Game Rant right now. Just so you guys can see, Game Rant is kind of thin, but it says rumored Star Wars The Force Unleashed 3 is in development. Now, before I continue on to this article, I do like to say I've always been a big fan of the Force Unleashed games. The first one I like better than the second one because it's longer, but I still like the second one as well. And yeah, if you've seen the ending to the second Force Unleashed game, they were clearly teasing of Force Unleashed 3. And like I said, I'm excited for, even though these are rumors, I would be excited if these turns out to be true. I will be excited to have a Force Unleashed 3, because I do believe that the Force Unleashed franchise deserves a third game. In my opinion. Let's read, shall we? It says, after its cancellation 5 years ago. Really? It's been 5 years? Okay. But after the cancellation 5 years ago, a rumor is claiming that Disney and EA are revising Star Wars The Force Unleashed with a new game. Want to say last minute scroll, thank you. Rumors are currently swirling online that a new game in the Star Wars The Force Unleashed series is in development. This claim comes from insider Daniel Richman, known for his prediction on everything Disney, who revealed to his Patreon backers that Disney and EA are working on Star Wars The Force Unleashed 3. At the moment, both EA and Disney, who owns the license to develop the Star Wars video games, haven't expressed any intention of reviving the franchise. Given this, players shouldn't get their hopes up, especially since Richman didn't go into detail beyond his report that The Force Unleashed 3 is in development. Of course, while this claim may provide some hope to those who want to see a proper closure to the cliffhanger left by The Force Unleashed 2, there aren't enough evidence to support it, so it's worth taking this rumor with a grain of salt. Crap. Okay. It is also important to remember that it has been a decade since the release of The Force Unleashed 2. It's been a decade? The Force Unleashed 2 came out in 2010? I do know that The Force Unleashed 1 came out in 2008. Okay. And the hype for a sequel has since declined. I think there's still a decent amount of hype there. It's just fans aren't as vocal about it as release the Snyder Cut of the Justice League. But I think there's still some hype there. Also, when Disney acquired the license to create Star Wars games, the company handed over publishing rights from LucasArts to EA. and it is likely that The Force Unleashed 3 is not high on EA's priority list, given that it has other Star Wars projects that are more successful than Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. Let me get a drink of water real quick. Additionally, after the cancellation of The Force Unleashed 3 in 2015, former developers revealed that the game was planned to be an open-world title that would revolve around Starkiller teaming up with Vader to end a new threat from the developer. Back in May, Raul Coley, sorry if I butchered that name, and Sam Whitaker, who worked in The Force Unleashed 3 as voice actors prior to the cancellation, also revealed some key elements of the game's story. I don't know who this Raul guy played in the Force Unleashed games, but anyways, given this, a lot has already been revealed. Just make sure my microphone was on. I was muted, I mean. But anyways, given this, a lot has already been revealed about what the game could have been, making the possibility of a new entire I can't speak English. Making the possibility of a new entry in the franchise all the more unlikely, unless EA decides to rewrite the game's plot from scratch. To those unfamiliar, Star Wars: The Force Unleashed series was meant to be a trilogy, and the third game in the franchise was in development that reached the prototype stage. Unfortunately, EA decided to cancel The Force Unleashed 3, and it doesn't appear that the studio is interested in reviving the franchise, especially after the huge success of Jedi Fallen Order, which the studio revealed to be the first game in the new series. Jedi Fallen Order, I do remember hearing getting a sequel, but Star Wars: The Force Unleashed 3 is still cancelled, but it is rumored to be in development. So, long story is, don't get your hopes up. Now, before I give my thoughts into this, I want to see who this Raul Coley guy, and I'm sorry if I keep butchering your name. Did he play Coda? No, I think he played the Master in Doctor Who, the current one. Yeah, I think he played the Master in the Doctor Who. But why do I think about Screen Rant's article? I mean, it's realistic. I gotta have to say it's realistic because they're dismissing it as rumors, saying don't get our hopes up. So I do honestly think that The Force Unleashed deserves a third game, especially if it was going to have like originally be a trilogy. I mean, I'm willing to bet you EA could easily bring out The Force Unleashed 3, like have The Force Unleashed 1 and 2 be remastered onto the PlayStation 4 and 5, called like Star, like maybe the Force Unleashed collection, or Galen Malik the Return. return or Malik's return to the Force, because Starkiller's actual name is Galen Malik. I don't know, but I think that The Force Unleashed 3 would bring EA a lot of money. I think that releasing The Force Unleashed 1 and 2, like re-releasing the collections on the PlayStation 4 and 5, I think that will get EA money. And I think EA should do that. And I think it will gain fans. It will gain the company a lot of money, because fans like me will get it. And fans who may have never heard of Star Wars The Force Unleashed would have, in my opinion, would get it as well, because they would be interested in, like, whoa, Darth Vader had a secret apprentice? And here's the thing, it could, since it was originally supposed to be a trilogy, I'm assuming that there is going to be a Force Unleashed 3. It could be its isolated own story. Like, yeah, there's DLC in the game where it kind of goes into the Elseworld thing. Like, there's one DLC in the Force Unleashed 1 where Starkiller successfully turns Luke to the dark side. In the Force Unleashed 2, Starkiller, we are able to play like an alternate version of the Battle of Endor, and having Starkiller being the one that brings the Empire victory to the Battle of Endor. And I totally love the ending to that DLC. If you guys haven't seen that DLC, I highly recommend you guys watching it, because the ending to the DLC is great. The thing I love about the Force Unleashed games is that Starkiller was taken from his home. He saw his father get killed in front of him by Darth Vader. He was trained to use the dark side of the Force. And in that game, he was tasked to, in the first one tasked to spy on the rebels. And at this time, the rebels' cells hasn't been formed yet. And during this time, Starkiller had a change of heart where he does join the rebellion. And in the end, he sacrifices himself. And because of Starkiller's sacrifice, that started a spark from Leia, from Bail, and I think Mon Mothma was there with like 2 other people in the room saying, we need to start a rebellion. And who knows, maybe that can still be canon. Maybe the Force Unleashed can be brought back into canon. Because, yeah, that could be like Bail Organa could try to form a rebellion to beat the Empire. And after the advance of the Force Unleashed, at least the first Force Unleashed game, or the Force Unleashed trilogy, if they do make it a trilogy, maybe Bail Organa went back in his place, close around in his place, and the Emperor decided to not pay much attention to Bail Organa afterwards, which could ultimately lead into like Rebels and of course Rogue One, which if they wanted to tie the Force Unleashed 3 into the whole Force Unleashed trilogy into the Star Wars, Disney Star Wars universe, they can easily do that. But yeah, the reason why I like the Force Unleashed 1 is for we would never know that Darth Vader had a secret apprentice. I mean, come on. It was still to be expected, but it was still a fun thing to see. What if Darth Vader had a secret apprentice? and if he turned good. And the best part is, this story doesn't have to interfere with what Dave Filoni did in the Rebels, because this could take place like shortly after Rebels ended, like in present time, and I don't know, or when we saw Darth Vader, or we could have it where the reason why we didn't see Darth Vader as much in Rebels as we probably should have is because he was busy secretly training Starkiller and giving him missions to hunt down Jedi. It would give us a pretty good excuse. And then Force Unleashed 3. Guess by now, Starkiller is already part of the rebellion. At least the clone version of him. Because what happens in Force Unleashed 2 is Darth Vader tries to clone Starkiller. And he succeeds after many attempts, but we play a clone where it rebels against Darth Vader, tries to find out his past, the original Starkiller's past, and it joins the rebellion. Leaves off a massive cliffhanger. And I would love to see Ahsoka being in the game. Talk about bringing Ahsoka in things. I bet they could make Ahsoka in The Force Unleashed 3 make sense. But yeah. I feel like EA could easily do that. Like, re-release the first two games onto the PlayStation 3, or PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5 in a collection. Kind of like what they did with Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City, putting them into a collection, calling it Return to Arkham. And what they did with the Kingdom Hearts collections. On the place when they re-released the Kingdom Hearts games on the PS3 and 4, and what they did with the Sly Cooper trilogy, the first three Sly Cooper games, onto the PlayStation 3. They could easily do that. And even if they consider The Force Unleashed 3 as part of Legends material, fans will eat that alive still. But I think not completing this Force Unleashed game, not closing this trilogy off when they could easily do it, especially when like Sam Whitaker and whoever else is still alive from the two Force Unleashed games. I think it would be a really stupid move on Disney part not to finish the trilogy. I think, like I said towards the beginning, I do think that The Force Unleashed deserves to have a third game. And I like to conclude to end the Galen Malik's story. And who knows, maybe that's where the First Order got the name of Starkiller Base, because they heard the legends of Starkiller from the days of the Empire and what he did in the name of the Empire, and wanted to honor him by naming a practically the third Death Star after him. That will make a really good scene out of the credits saying, with like Kylo Ren saying, and General Hux or Snoke saying, yeah, the reason why we named Starkiller Base is because Darth Vader's secret apprentice, that ended up helping the rebels destroy the Empire, but still. Now, would fans like that? I doubt the fans that are more of the George Lucas Star Wars fan than the Disney Star Wars fan, but that could still be a somewhat nice tie-in if Disney wanted to tie in the Force Unleashed into their canonized for canon first for Star Wars. But what do you guys think? Do you guys want Force Unleashed 3? And if they do make a Force Unleashed 3, regardless of how low the chances are, what do you guys want the Force Unleashed 3 to have? Like, what characters, what story do you want the Force Unleashed 3 to have? And hell, that could be the first Force Unleashed game and the only Force Unleashed game that could have a multiplayer. And if we get a Battlefront 3, maybe bring in Starkiller as one of the playable characters. And since the Force Unleashed games takes place in the same timeline as Jedi Fallen Order, which I admittedly have not played Jedi Fallen Order yet. Well, I have, but I mean like from start to finish. I played it over a friend's house.